is Miss Kim and Miss Allie, and we are gonna make a basic turning video for you guys to work on. What we wanna do is we wanna make sure across the board that our studio does all of this the exact same way from a technical perspective. Depending upon what style of ballet you learn, depending upon where you learn it, what teachers you had, this could look different. In choreography, you can do things different. So if we teach a certain prep here, that doesn't mean in choreography you always have to do that prep. It just means when we talk about the technical how-to, this is how the prep should be. So this is actually a great time to make sure our whole studio is on the same page with all these turns. So we're gonna go basic differences between jazz and ballet and some elementary turns with that. First off, verbiage. So jazz turns are turns. Typically in ballet, you don't want to call them turns, you're going to call them pirouettes. You will hear some people say a jazz pirouette. That's sort of weird because it's opposite of each other, but sometimes you'll hear that language. So ballet is pirouettes, jazz can be turns if you're not calling it a specific kind. The basic differences is where your passe is and how you prep for it. There's also a couple of different turnout things. So in the dance world, looks at all of these differently. So in some places, they're gonna say your prep should match the style of turn that you're doing, meaning that if you're doing ballet turns, everything should be turned out. So when you prep back, everything should be turned out. When you do a jazz turn, some will say everything should be parallel. We do both. So sometimes you'll step forward and everything should be parallel. Sometimes we will keep a slight turn out. The other difference is in jazz turns, if you are doing parallel, usually your heel is up. If you are doing turned out, your heel is down. So you just want to clarify with your teacher for choreography what we're looking for, but when we do straight jazz, it's fine to have your heel up if you're doing parallel. If you're doing a turnout jazz prep, it should be placed down. Ballet pirouettes should always be down. You should never have a foot up and back when you do your ballet pirouette. So let's talk about those preps. So for jazz, you're gonna prep forward. Now it doesn't mean that you couldn't potentially go backward in choreography, but for technical reasons, you're gonna go forward. So you go up into a releve in second, and then you would step forward, depending upon if you're doing a right or a left, inside, outside. But if we're gonna practice our generic outside turns, just like what Miss Allie is doing right now. In jazz, you're also gonna bring it up to a straight jazz passe. So you can see her foot is nice and pointed down along. It fits right where your kneecap is right here, that inside of your foot. You wanna make this as flat as possible while doing that as well. And your arms, you wanna find where your ribs come together in your sternum, and then your arms come straight out from that. One of the habits we're trying to break for a lot of kiddos is their arms are way up here, and that causes all kinds of alignment issues. So we wanna make sure that your arms are where they're supposed to be and that your elbows are always higher than your wrist. So if we put a drop of water, it would slowly flow all the way off your fingertips. So none of this. This is also a bad habit, especially with my boys. They like to pull up like this. We wanna make sure we see this. We wanna press down and lift up. Press down on your shoulders, lift up and spot with your head. So for your jazz, you're gonna step forward for a single, prep, pull up to your passe, and typically we're gonna land out in a clean for jazz. That looks different for ballet, but for jazz, you would land out. So Allie's gonna show 5, 6, 7, 8, go 1, 2, turn 3, land 4. Okay, I'm gonna have her turn around so that you guys can match her. We're gonna do a couple of these, ready? 5, 6, 7, 8, prep, step, turn, land. In turning, the land is important. You don't get points for a turn if you don't land the turn. So you gotta make sure that you land it. Let's do that one more time so they're following along. 5, 6, 7, 8, 1, 2. So she prepped on 7, 8 that time. That's fine for jazz turns. You can count however you wanna count. It's still the same principle right there. So for her single ballet pirouette, start with the difference in your prep. You can start either in first or fifth. That's typically gonna be choreography based, but your first prep is gonna be a tendu out. You wanna see that arch in the foot. You want your knee up on top, so none of this. We don't want the hip turning in, we don't want the knee to the front. Everything should be on top. You also wanna be hips straight to the front and be as centered as possible. You don't wanna lean into a hip to one side. So lift everything. So here's your 1, 2. You're going to prep back in a fourth position You want to make sure when you do this, one of the mistakes that we see kiddos make is they either go too far out like this or they cross back like this. It should be that if you were in first and you just moved your foot straight back, that you're in the proper position. So I could take that and close it and be right back and forth first, just like Miss Allie did. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Heel is down on both feet. Both knees are in a plie. Your weight should be fairly centered. You don't want to be here, you don't want to be here. Okay, so you want to make sure that weight is right in the middle. You're pressing your shoulders down. Your arms can be out or here. If you're doing ballet, usually you're going to do more of this. And then your passe for your ballet turn is going to be turned out. As you see with Miss Allie's foot, her heel is not pressed up against her leg. There is a definite space here, and her toes are nice and pointed and stretched long right underneath her kneecap. When she does the turn, it stays in this position. So you don't want to start to turn and close it to jazz. You want to make sure that the whole rotation, you stay open as you go around in a circle. When you land your ballet pirouettes here at the studio, we land in quasi fourth, okay? So your foot should go straight from your passe, controlled land back and down. What you don't want to do is this to get back. So you got to make sure that all the way around that passe stays open and you control it until you can set it controlled back. So we'll do one to the front and then we'll do a couple to the back so they can see. 5, 6, 7, 8, tendu décolleté, back and forth, turn and land. Yes. Let's go ahead and turn it around so they can follow you. 5, 6, 7, 8, tendu décolleté, back and forth, passe up, and land back and forth. That fourth is quasi, meaning you're closed from the audience perspective for my ballet tech kids that have been working on that. One more time, please. 5, 6, 7, 8, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Perfect. Obviously, once you have nice, good control with your singles, you want to work on your doubles, then you want to work on your triples. The best way to get a triple is to practice your quads. The best way to get a double is to practice your triples. So if you practice the one higher, you're more likely to get the one that's less than that. So push yourself. This is a great time over break to become really good and confident with your turns. One of the other turns that we do a lot of are straight leg pirouettes and pencil turns. So it's the same turn, but pencil turns are jazz, straight leg pirouettes are ballet. You can see preps a couple different ways. Ballet for straight leg pirouettes, sometimes you will do the same prep. Sometimes you will just do a ball change. Obviously you point in that tendu if you do a ball change. Jazz, the same thing. Typically in jazz, you're either gonna step forward and go into it, or you're gonna do a ball change for the jazz. So we will do ball change first, more jazz, and then we'll do a ballet prep to do straight leg pirouettes. When you do the straight leg pirouette, essentially when you take off that foot, you face the back and you squeeze your legs together as hard as you can. Your foot is off the floor, but it's not very high, so you're not dragging it on the floor, but you're off the floor, but you have to be in a high releve, because if you're not in a high releve, your foot will touch the floor. So you've got to make sure you get up in a high releve, knee is straight, foot is pointed, and you squeeze your thighs together as hard as you can. So we'll have Allie do a jazz one with the ball change first. 5, 6, 7, 8, turn, and down. That's the other difference is jazz, you would land it out, and ballet, you would run de jambe around in the same sort of quasi-fourth that we did for ballet pirouettes. So do that facing the back. We're gonna do the jazz one first. 5, 6, 7, 8, 1, 2, 3, 4, down. I'm gonna have Allie do a double. Singles are really hard with pencil turns because you have momentum going. She's gonna squeeze her legs really tight together, so you can do a double or triple, whichever makes the most sense. 5, 6, 7, 8, 1, 2, 3, 4, down. Great, perfect. Okay, so now if we do more of a ballet pirouette versus a pencil turn, we're gonna change the prep slightly and we're gonna change how we land it. So here we'll do it in the front once. 5, 6, 7, 8, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Perfect. Go ahead and face the other side. And again, you can do however many makes sense for you. 5, 6, 7, 8. Go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, down. Perfect. The other thing that I would encourage you guys to do is practice all of this on your left as well. So we demonstrated everything on the right today, but you need to learn how to do both. And the thing that you need to think about is you may be able to nail quads on your right, and that's easy for you, but that's not where you started. You started learning a single, then you got a double, then you got a triple. You have to do the same thing with your left. So you can't just go on the left and try to do a quad. It's not gonna work. You gotta go back to your basics. You need to go through your technique and start with your single first, then move up to your double. So over this break, this is gonna be a great time for you guys not only to work on upping your level of turns, but also to work on having that balance of both right and left. So there are a couple basic turns and some technique for you to work on while we're gone. See you later, miss you guys.